Load them up. Load them up. Load tool. We did a stream called Gauntly, and we did a little bit of working. And I'm not going to, you know what? I've decided, and it makes sense, that when I'm done, I'm not going to just say, okay, I'm logging out at 8 and then do 20 minutes worth of marketing stuff. I'll just keep recording. I may not answer a lot of questions, but let's switch over to the skin shader. You see that a little bit better. So I did some very, very quick poly painting on this guy. So in order to see that a little bit better, let's go into material and let's go over here to modifiers and let's crank that diffuse up to 100. Another thing we can do is under wax modifiers, we'll go ahead and crank that strength up, and it's going to tell us that under render, render, we need to go over here to render properties and turn on wax preview. So that way when I actually change the wax strength, you can actually see that it'll give you a little bit of gumminess on there. Now you can, of course, you can mix that with, we go in here to light, and we can take this light and we can move it over to the left here, and we can say, okay, this is going to be the start of my BPR render. BPR is best preview render. You can just hit that button, and there we go. Now, if you want to play around with the shadows, which sometimes you probably want to do, we'll go ahead and again take that render menu over here, and we will say we want ambient occlusion, we want shadows, and under these we have AO and shadow, and I'm going to try to do an SSS pass. It didn't work yesterday for some reason, but and then under here, under, you know what, 2020.1.1. Yeah, I think I'm up to date. So now we have floor strength and global strength. So if I drop that global strength down, you're going to see that shadow's going to lighten up just a little bit, although it stays pretty dark because now we've added AO. If we want to see those maps, go over here to our render pass. And then we can see, okay, we did get an SSS pass, good. So we've got here our ambient occlusion pass. Now it's very, very kind of muddy. So I'm going to go in here to our AO. I'm going to crank up that resolution a bit, crank that blur way down, and then that'll kind of clean that up a little bit. You can see that works, and then our shadows look like they did their thing. Now we need a little bit more shadow. BPR shadow, strength, down, floor strength down. There we go. Now this is a very harsh shadow, like it's in the sunlight. If you wanted to have a little bit more fall off, what you can do is you can drop, I'm going to increase the raise and resolution, but I am going to raise this angle. So the more I raise that angle, the further away from the light it gets, the more blurry it's going to get. And that's just the basic of the setup I did for my marketing render. Now as far as painting this guy, this was really the world's crappiest paint job. Hold on, let me turn this light down just a little bit here. It's burning my eyeballs. There we go. Hey everybody from Spain. Nice. We're just doing some quick catch up from Tuesday's stream. Do a little bit of poly painting, I suppose. But basically what I did was I filled the entire object with this color here. So I'm going to say color fill object, or just start with something like this. And we have Skin Shader 4 with the material ambient or the diffuse all the way up. We can play around with the specular, but for now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start laying in some base tones for this guy. And you know what? This is actually a little bit dark. Probably something more like, let's say this. And then we can go through and you can say, okay, give me some red. Turn off ZIA, turn on RGB, or go in here to your brush, paintbrush, and that'll do the same thing. And then here in our alpha, you can try and do like a speckled alpha. You can try going in here to maybe do a spray stroke and start spraying in some base values. You can go in here to say this veiny alpha and you can start spraying, or you can even do like a drag rect and you can just kind of start going through here and just kind of building up. Generally, I don't do this type of thing. If I'm going to sit here and really do it, I don't know. You know what? We'll just do it. I wasn't planning on doing anything more than what I did for the marketing thing, but we can play around with this a little bit. Also, drop your RGB intensity down if you want, and we're just going to kind of layer in some colors here, and then we'll go back to kind of a skin tone. So where we want to congregate, let me turn off align cursor surface here. Where we want to congregate our reds is where it's going to kind of pool in the face. So we'll go ahead and put that in there a little bit. So let's go back to that spray stroke. Let's turn our RGB intensity down. Let's switch back over to maybe alpha 08, that kind of clumpy alpha here. And we'll go back to a normal-ish skin tone. And we can start brushing on top of this. Just kind of a mottled kind of flesh look here. And while you're doing this, you probably want to, get your reference out and, look at how skin works and stuff. Do as I say, not as I do. Let's go and turn off perspective here. So basically, like we were saying, where we're in the red pooling areas, we can drop that down, and then we can go through here and we can kind of put some red around the mouth and the nose, and maybe a little bit in the ears back here. And then the golden zones, so we can go up here to we can put in some kind of golden area up here on the forehead, and then maybe on the jaw over here, we can maybe go a little cooler. Jaw on the neck here. This might be a little intense. I mean, we have red and we can cool it off a little bit, or we can go like super cool. We'll just say red and cool it off a bit. It'll probably be a little more subtle choice here. And we're just kind of building that up. Now, of course, there's still going to be blood and bone and tendon and stuff like that. So we can kind of maybe warm up his chest a little bit. And then over here in the cools, let's go very cool on this one here, and then we can kind of highlight maybe this cheekbone, bridge of the nose, maybe a little bit of this ear, maybe a little bit of this temple, and then rib cage down here. And now this is just stumps, and I don't see us taking it any further than this. We can start playing around with some of the sacrum and stuff. We'll go ahead and do that. And then for the body down here, we'll go dark here. There we go. Because that's just, again, we can kind of play this off like he's just kind of got some serious issues. All right, and then we'll go back to our skin tone here, and let's go, we can take this alpha and kind of tighten it up a little bit, but I'm just going to go in here to alpha 07. It's still a blurry version of this alpha, but the detail is going to be a little bit tighter, and we can actually go from a spray stroke to a dot stroke, and now we can just kind of lay in some of those tones. We'll go ahead and crank up our RGB intensity just a bit here, and so again, a little more golden up here, and then maybe a little redder, and you're always going to be dropping in. We got some red tones here, and then across the cheeks and across the nose here. And then maybe these will be, you can also cool it down just by taking away some of that saturation. Something like that. Of course, maybe turn off, I don't mind sculpting symmetrically for a while, but you probably want to turn off symmetry at some point. And we are losing a little bit of our definition, but we can get some of that back in the final render. But we'll go ahead and paint it in. And you know what? This is going to be the first stream I actually have coffee, which I don't know why it took me so long to do that. Hopefully that helps. It's Thursday. I need to wake up. Takavach says, "Oh my god, long time no see. May I ask a question? Is there a way to flipping horizontally VDM inside of ZBrush, for example? Imagine it would try to use an ear VDM brush inside of ZBrush. Yes. No. But what you can do is you can capture inside of the brush. No. But what you can do is when you have the VDM, you can geometry. Do you even need to do that? We have subdivision history here. We go to mirror. Yeah. Okay. So you have subdivision levels. So when you're doing your VDM on your VDM plane, when you're capturing it, just flip it and then capture two versions of the VDM. You may have to go in here to delete, lower, flip, and then reconstruct all the way back to a square in order to get that to happen. But what I usually do is if I'm drawing on one side, well, this isn't going to work if you were if you posed your mesh here, but if you are working like this, like when you go in here to BI brush insert, just like this one, or hell, we can just do it. We can go in here to our brush. I don't think there is. Off the top of my head, I don't think there is, but I could be lying. So we have an ear here. We'll say go up to the highest here, and we'll say turn this off. It's like, okay, I'm going to drag out an ear. Oh, crap. Go this way. Okay, that worked. But if we're on this side, it's backwards. So that would just be a case of just going to the other side. As long as you don't have pose symmetry, you can just pick which side. Of course, as soon as you go and you pose, that looks kind of cool. Little Pan's Labyrinth looking thing there. But yeah, you can just capture, you can flip and capture two sides here, or just go to the other side. But again, you're going to run into a little bit of problems when you go to, when you go to do other stuff. Okay, so we're going to bring this a little bit ruddy or redder in through here, and then in through the eyeballs and stuff too. We'll grab some magenta in here in the eyeball, and then maybe some greens and gray greens through here, and then maybe some purples and some blues. And you don't have to use these alphas. This is just a way to kind of break up my stroke if you're doing very stylized stuff. In fact, you can hold down Shift and turn off Z-Add. You just go through here and you can smooth all this out. So you're just smoothing the RGB, and that'll get you, and you can even go in here to your stroke alpha, and then modify, and you can go in here and do streak length, so you can get like brush strokes going, which might be interesting. But again, we're just laying in our base tones here, and then for the, let's keep working this up. So we're going to go through here, and we'll get yellow. And again, oh, you know what it might help is, I'm going to turn my lazy radius off. There we go. It's like it's not really laying down how I would expect, and that could be why. So again, we'll go through here. And it's getting a little bit messy down here because I paid more attention up here than by the time I got down here. I was like, just get it done. And that's okay. We'll figure it out. We'll cool this off a little bit. And then just like when we were doing the eyeballs here, we can drop in, a little bit of them blues and a little bit of them magentas. And ideally, this would make sense, like depending on what the underlying, what's going on in the body underneath is driving the color choices here. I'm being a little haphazard, I'll be honest. But do your due diligence. Observe, be mindful of your observations. There we go. And then now, this might work okay. You can switch this out to another alpha, which will be alpha 23, and this is going to get a little bit more fine detailed. And then at this point, and again, I'm doing the dot stroke and using this alpha just so I can kind of, again, have that skin kind of breakup. And then at the very end, I can go through and I can, but I didn't even go this far when I was doing my marketing. If you remember when I first turned on that Polypaint, it was not much. And depending on what the end render is going to be, which is going to be like for a thumbnail for a video, pick and choose your battles. And that's basically what I did. I was like, you know what? Is it just going to be for a YouTube video, and I got to go to work? So go through here, and then we'll style in. And then let's get some more reds. It looks like, and some of that previous mottling that I did has disappeared, and you can bring that back if you want to, just by doing a very light RGB value and kind of blending over that. Now, if you're going to be doing like very, very deep wrinkles and you want to you can do cavity masks and you can like paint inside of the wrinkles and stuff like that, you can. Might be a bit overkill for us, but I don't know, maybe not. And then through here, and this guy's looking a little bit haggard. He's got kind of that look, like he's kind of like a little bit out of it, and he's a little gaunt. He's a little spent, and again, that just goes back to what you're trying to portray, and you could really lean into that, you know, depending on what this character's story is. And is he just a little tired because he had to wake up early and live stream, or is he tired because he's being chased by international fugitives? He's got to stay one step ahead of whatever. Could be part of it. So anyway, this will kind of help inform while you're sculpting as well. Going through there and punching in your detail as needed, especially when you start, you know, put the wax modifier in there. That's really going to kind of start killing some of your detail. So you may need to over crank a little bit, or go through here and just kind of start adding more details and stuff like that. Hey everybody, thanks for showing up. I usually always use my Intuos Pro Medium. I use that at home and I use it at work. It's ergonomic. It works for me. I enjoy it. We talked about that. We talk about that on some streams. Basically, it allows me to keep my arm down and my head away from a light bulb all day. And then we'll go ahead and we'll punch in some darker, more serious reds through here. And then let's go ahead and turn that alpha off. And now we can start talking about going in here and putting in some more final tones here. So, and this, we might need to subdivide one more time. So we're sitting at 1.5. Go in here, we'll subdivide once. Now we're at 6 million polygons for this entire bust, and that's probably about right. If I was going to go super duper detailed, I would like, you know, be cutting this into multiple pieces. But I don't know that that's necessary for this particular piece. I think we'll be okay. And then in through like this pec separation here, you can kind of punch that up just a bit, like so. And then we can also, if you want to kind of just start making modifications, we can go into, this is new in 2020, we can now go in here to Polypaint, and we can say, you know what, let's adjust our colors. And let's say I want to make them a little more zombie. I can start pushing them into the greens, or make them a little more ruddy. So you know what? Let's make them a little more sickly here, and then we can bump up maybe a little bit of that saturation. Actually, bump it down, and that'll make them a little ghostly. We can make it a little more contrasty, and we can tint it with something. I don't know that I need to tint it, and then we can also bump up our RGB intensity, which I think in this case is okay. You can also separate out any individual color. Just go here and drag on. It's like I want to pick just my reds, and then, you know, mask out just those areas. You can mask out multiple areas. In this case, he has very subtle colors, so not going to help us that much. So, but you can use that. Oh, did I change something? Interesting. Adjust colors. Let's go ahead and say reset. A little dead, a little saturated, a little intense. Boom. Okay. There we go. Interesting. I explain how colorize, multiply, and other things to paint the model. Yeah, you can go over here to your brushes, and you can say under alpha and texture, you have polypaint modes. So if you switch it to standard, you can switch it to colorize, you can switch to multiply, light, and darken. So if you want to go through here and say, let's switch it to 3 for multiply, and then go in here with some darker tones, and then you can just multiply this over some of your detail as well. So we can kind of punch up the idea that we've got some dark magenta is in here, and maybe make him a little bit more ruddy through here, and maybe some purples and some blues. Just kind of, you know, giving it a little bit more of that deader look, maybe some greens. And then if we go over here, again, you can hold down control. It sometimes it'll show you a little bit more. In this case, not so much. Light and darken, and then colorize on 2. Let's go ahead. And you can also just sample colors. You can tap C on your model here. You can go through, and then now you can use colorize stroke. And you can use alphas for this, again, if you want to go through and be like, you know what, let's grab our drag rect and our kind of veiny alpha 22. And you could also paint with textures if you want to. In this case, you know what we could have done? We could have brought in, if you watch the ZBrush 2020, ZBrush 2020, what's new? You can go through here, and I do a little bit of skin painting on here, and also using the 2020 stuff to, let me see if I can find you a video real quick, where basically you go through and you use alpha functionality, new paint functionality to kind of drag moles and stuff onto your mesh here. So I'll go ahead and do that. Trying to sculpt a character. The problem is that I cannot add a lot of details because I think it's really big model. Do you recommend me cutting multiple pieces for detailing? Yeah, if you're capping out, especially on your machine, then yeah, cut it up. And if you're, most of your models are going to have clothing and stuff, then yeah, just cut off the head. And if you, in fact, now this is topical, if you go into, hey, we hit 74K subscribers. Thanks, everybody. If you go into Pixelogic's channel, stream, College Workshops. I haven't added my latest one yet, but it is available in their videos. They have their newest video. Here it is. MPC Disney presentation, and they talk a lot about exactly what you're talking about, going through there. And if you need 40 million polygons for just the ear, here, I'll go ahead and share that, starting at that point here. That's one way to do it. You can go nuts on your amount of detail. John Yu, hey again. Subspainter, yeah, if you're going to do some point, can you make an iRay render with an alpha pass? It does have Ooh. Yeah, we'll hop into iRay today. We'll take this through Houdini, let's say, and we'll do some iRay rendering if I get around to that, and we'll give that a shot. I want to say yes, but I'm not positive off the top of my head. But anyway, oh yeah, so we're going through here, and we're going to switch that out to the veiny stroke here, and then we're going to just start dropping in, drop that RGB intensity down, and now we can start putting in maybe some blue veins in here. And this is the type of thing where like you just want kind of general feel of some veins. You can do that, but if you want anything specific, you know, obviously switch this back to a drag dot stroke. Then you can turn your Z-add back on, and then you can actually just pop in a vein with a little bit of color here. And so that way, and you can also just, you know, do Z-add first. So you can go through here and kind of put that in, hold down shift and just turn on Z-add so we don't mess up our Polypaint, and we'll just knock this back just a bit, and then you can come back in with just a little RGB, and then you can punch in a little bit of that color. I'll go back to RGB. And yeah, we need to really kind of punch up some of the sculptural detail, but we can do that in a second. But basically what I was doing as far as rendering was turn on perspective, and then you go in here to hit BPR. And then we got our shadows already going, we got our AO already going, and we have our render passes already going, so shadows, AO, occlusion, and we can go through here and just roll over these, and pretty simple. So I'm going to go in here to composite, and I'm already in here, so this one we'll go ahead and, you know what, let's do this. Let me clean this up a little bit, just for demonstration purposes. Paste it, paste it. So in here, we're going to say new folder. And it's going to be move it. There we go. So in this folder, we'll drop our BPR composite, depth, shadow, in case we need it, AO in case we want to do a little bit more mask, and then our SSS, and then we'll go into Photoshop real quick. And while we're doing that, I don't want to move my camera. You can save your camera view, probably movie timeline show, and then save your camera view. You can also use ZapLink if you want to, but we'll just go ahead and put that in there. And then if we move, we can always snap back. And then we have our BPR render, we have perspective turned on, and I'm going to go over here to our Polypaints, go ahead and turn that off. Black color, go into our light, and we'll just put a rim light. In the light directions here, we could put a rim light on the back this time, I suppose. And then on the material here, we'll go ahead and switch this from skin shader over here to basic. And then underneath the material properties for the basic, we can say crank up our specular amount so we get that information. And then we can also play around the specular curve if you want it a little tighter. You can do that. And you can also crank up the light value, which I don't think we'll need to do. You can also change your light direction. So if you wanted to do, we can do a rim light on this side. It seems to catch a little more information, or you can break them out from the background from this direction as well. You can do both. So then when you hit your BPR render, we still have AO and shadow turned on, so that'll go ahead and block areas where that shouldn't be showing up. And then at this point, we just need to go back down here to our composite, which we got rid of. And then BPR render passes. Where did they go? Preview shadow render pass right there. Composite, and we'll say, and we'll go back up here to our light, back down here to our light, and we'll throw in here on this side. Load these up. Bada bing. And we'll start with our composite here, and then our depth pass. We'll just go ahead and throw into our channels, plus paste, and then our shadow pass. I don't think we'll need AO pass. We can go ahead and just copy that into our layer stack here. And then our BPR mask, we'll use this to chop out our character. So we'll go back into the channels here and we'll paste that in alpha 2, or make a new alpha 2. SSS, oh boy, that's a really broad SSS. We might have to fix that. That's not going to help us that much. And then for our backlight, we'll go back into our layer stack here. And front light. You can also use the Photoshop plugin in ZBrush if you want. I'm just doing a simple version, so no need to go through all that mess. And then over here we can turn these to screen, and then this one to multiply for the AO. And then now you can start messing around with like AO and the front light and the back light, and if you want to get rid of the backlight you can, or just keep the front light, or if you want to dumb down this backlight. Also, if you want to just constrain this backlight to just the object, just click that alpha and then go in here and put in a opacity mask there. And then same thing for the AO, although in this case it shouldn't do too much. We can also go into the hue saturation, alt tap between these to link this just to the AO, and now we can make this ambient occlusion colorize. We can have it favor a certain color, so if you want to make it a little bit more ruddy, we can. So now, and again, if you want to drop the opacity on that backlight, or you want to just kill it all together, or if you want to go through here on the backlight and say, you know what, let's do a hue saturation. Again, alt click, so it just goes to the backlight, and then we can turn on colorize, and we can cool this light off. Oops. Sorry, colorize, hue saturation, stupid. There we go, so we can cool that light off, and then on the other light, the front light here, we can warm that up. Again, just grab a hue saturation, and we can say you get colorized to be warmer, and then maybe dial it in like that. And that's really all I did. Nothing more fancy than that. I'm trying to remember if I did anything else. What you can also do is you can put in some more layers in here. So you can say, you know what, let's do, we can do an overlay layer. And we can also do a color dodge maybe. And we can grab our brush here. And if we want to confine these to just my object too, I can hold down Control and tap again, and now we can just be confined to this area here. So now I can just go through here and sample, and we can drop our, let's say, 3 and 2 for opacity in our flow. So if we need to go through here and we need to like punch up any areas, or we want to kind of dial in some subsurface scattering, that's another thing we didn't do. This is how I would kind of go in and kind of fake. You can also hit Control H to hide. If you need to fake along the shadows to do a little bit of subsurface scattering, go through here and you can kind of drop in some pretty reds along those shadows and along the highlights here, just to kind of give you a little bit more of that fake indication that you got more going on than you actually do. And try not to use ZBrush hotkeys while you're in Photoshop. There we go, something like this. And go through here and you can punch that up and, you know, that kind of stuff. And then also go to our overlay layer here, and you can use this to kind of go through and do kind of the same thing. And usually if I'm going to be doing marketing stuff, I'll try and keep the camera way back here, but that's usually more towards the end. So now we have this, we've got colorize. Oh yeah, if you want to do a lens blur, which in this case I don't think I did, but if you wanted to, Control A, Control Shift C, Control V to go ahead and copy, and then you can go in here and you can go to Filter, Blur, Lens Blur, and that's still on the screen, right? Yeah, look at that. But boy, it's big. Let me scooch this down so you can see the controls. And then through here, we can have the alpha set to alpha 1, which is our depth mask, and then we can just go through here and click, and then if you go through and you just change that radius, so you can focus in on, this is all kind of on the same plane, so you can focus in on the nose and blur everything else out. You can focus in on the ear and blur everything else out. In this case, boy, that radius is really kind of working overtime here. Yeah, I don't know that that's that useful, but that's how you'd accomplish that. Also on this one, you could go through here and you could do a dodge. Make sure you have protect tone so you don't start making things muddy. You can go through here and you can kind of, again, just kind of punch up some areas through here. You can also go in here and you can do that to your highlights, your shadows, your midtones, and then if you want to go through here and play around with some contrast locally, it's not like an overall contrast for what am I trying to say? Not the overall contrast. So if you wanted to go through here and like do a levels or something, that'd be different. That's more like local contrast you're playing with. But if you want to do like a levels or a curves, I guess I don't need to link these. You can go through here and beep, boop, bop, and you can do RGB curves if you want to. Go ahead and get some of that detail back in the mids there, and then maybe punch it up. It's too much. And then if you're getting saturation problems, you can actually go back through, if you wanted to. There's actually a sponge over here, the sponge tool. You can take out saturation, but you can go around and you can play around with stuff like that. So anyway, that's how we did our thing, and maybe I'll keep this around. So we'll go ahead and say, you know, the BPR composite's fine. Let's go ahead and save it in there, and then you know, we'll play it safe. There's a chance that I could just save over that, so we'll say we'll be lazy and just name it working. Let me get caught up. Sorry if I miss anything. How important is it to learn anatomy? Not important at all, unless you're going to be doing stuff with anatomy, and then in which case it'd probably be pretty important. Yeah, that's a good answer. Have you tried Quixel Measure 2020 yet? No, I haven't had the chance to kind of sit down and do much of anything lately. This is the most I've sat down and done in a couple weeks. 3D character artist, 7 years experience. Knowledge I have from ZBrush today is because of you. I've learned so much of videos. Thank you so much. Well, thanks for following me and listening to me drone about ZBrush. We'll have more stuff coming up. ZBrush is kind of a low-hanging fruit for me. It's kind of fun to play around, so that's why I usually end up streaming. But like I said, we can get into Substance Designer and Houdini and stuff like that soon, and all that stuff. I noticed you're not even subscribed to the Pixelogic channel. Sure I am, aren't I? Let's see, Pixelogic ZBrush. Oh, I guess. You know what? I might have subscribed to with my work account. There we go. One more sub. Good call. Would you say ZBrush is worth learning as a concept designer? Absolutely. Oh no. Yeah, bombing demos is real fun. That's part of the sweating bullets part of live streaming is it can go south real fast. But in this case, we're just having fun. It's not real high. We're not setting the world on fire with anything. So we'll switch back over here to our skin shader. There we go. And again, if I want to get that view back, since we saved it, I can just do that. We'll go ahead and turn on perspective. And boy, man, when we did that, I guess that makes sense. That's fine. Any tutorial to present the model in Photoshop? We kind of did that. If you do an SS pass, what blend mode do you prefer? What I'll usually do, and let's switch back here. So we did kind of have a problem with our SS pass, so let's see if we can fix that. Not a problem, it was more just I need to go in and do some settings because it's not trying to read my mind. So AO, transparency, SSS, and we'll keep that. So now I'm going to crank up the raise and the resolution just to tighten that up a little bit, and that angle will drop down, and the blur will drop way down, and I'll hit BPR. Oops, turn on perspective, make sure I'm snapped to my camera view, BPR, and let's see if that updates the SSS. I think it did. So we'll save over that. And then if we go in here to Photoshop, yeah, that is grabbed. I just grabbed the kind of the edges there. Okay, let's try something else. In here, let's say SSS across all subtools. Angle, maybe we need to crank that angle up, back up to closer to where it was originally. Let's see if that worked. It's kind of hard to tell. You know, I guess I could have just reloaded that. I don't know. I got a little bit in there. So what I would do is I have my SSS mask here. So I'm going to go ahead and put it. It is a mask. So I'm just going to put it in my channels. Now, what I'm trying to select is we'll go here and invert this. Well, basically, the white background can be ignored. So I don't need any of that. And then what I'm really trying to get at is any sort of gradients that ZBrush captured for me. So the easiest way to do that would be, let's say, ignore the background just by control clicking just to isolate just the body, and then control shift. Now that's going to add all that white. Here's what we can do. We can control click to get all our subsurface here. We'll go into our layers and we'll just add our SSS pass, and in this we'll just go ahead and fill it with maybe a dark red. So I'm just going to do Alt E L, which is fill, or you can use the paint bucket short hotkey, whatever that is. So now we have subsurface scattering, but it's going everywhere. So I just want to confine it to where the body is. So again, go back here, confine it to where the body is, just control click that, and then we'll put in opacity mask. So now, if I turn this on and off, you're going to see that's where it decided to put our subsurface scattering. Now through here, I want to say like linear dodge add is what I might use, but you know what? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I would use more of a overlay. Maybe just kind of play around with it. Yeah, maybe overlay, and then you can go through here and you can drop that opacity down. But I don't know. I might switch that up depending on what the what look it gives me. But anyway, that's a little bit more SSS you can do. 2 measures total points of 390K, but it's so laggy. I saw my poly count at 5.5 million. A couple of zero measure. How do I solve this problem? Make sure you have, if I was to go through here, so I have 6, well, even if I was to do something like this, let's go ahead and clone this guy off. So we're sitting here, and then let's go back here to our, you know what, let's just dynamesh this guy. So we're working on this guy, and he is 820, let's drop this down. Is it going to? Wake up, wake up, wake up. Oh, Z-add maybe? No. Unify? There we go. So we have 322,000 active points, and we're going through here and we're sculpting on it, and it's like butter, right? It's ZBrush. However, if I hit D and I go through here and try and sculpt, it's going to be laggy as heck. In fact, it's not even usable, and that's because under dynamic subdivision you have dynamic turned on. So due to Shift D, that's going to dynamically subdivide your 322 meshed up to 5 million polygons while you're trying to sculpt it, you know, dynamically. So it's probably not that helpful. Go ahead here and delete higher. I would guess that was it. Like John, you said. Should I focus on character art, or should I know environment art also? Oh, you know what? I got some stuff for you guys. My ArtStation page here. You know, if you want to play the numbers, environments generally have more people available as far as work to do, but I don't know, that may have changed in the past 15 years. But here's my thoughts on that. You know, sure, and it's not like environments is rocket science or anything, so you can know both. I guess if you had to pick and choose your battles, which probably is a good idea as far as you know, getting your foot in the door and being really good at something. I don't know. I did characters, but Ringling. But then when I graduated, I got a job as environment artist at EA, and then I went into character art there, and then I went to SOE as a character artist. So you can switch too. Japan is in the chat. Finally. Zero mesh is not working for me. It always cancels the operation. You can try going into geometry, mesh integrity, fix mesh, and that might fix it. I think I did. I think I answered your question. Would you suggest to create some cliff sketches using ZBrush to move it into Photoshop afterwards and define it with color and shading? Yeah, in fact, speaking of subs, let's go to my community page here. You can use photogrammetry. Here's a video from Dave Ansira, where he actually uses ZBrush booleans and cliffs to kind of go through and make some cliff faces. So you can check that out. Oh, what was your second question? If I need to create, should I use ZBrush? Yeah, sure. In fact, going back to the topic of the day, if you watch the Lion King thing, about halfway through, they stop doing characters and talk about how every single rock and formation in the movie was hand sculpted in ZBrush. How about that? Photogrammetry, take that. I'll go ahead and link you there. Start at copy. Check that out. Oh, I don't want to become famous. I won't follow that bot link. Okay, so we got this. We have we got our soft plastic, skin shader. What else we're doing? Okay, yeah. So we're going to kind of clean this up a little bit. So let's go back into our startup material, and we'll go through here and we'll have a little bit more fun, just kind of dialing in some details. I'm going to go in here with my Damien Standard brush, and we're going to start defining a little bit more. And this one, the lazy radius is on at a very low not opacity, low value, so it'll kind of smooth my stroke out a little bit, but it won't get in the way, which is kind of about where I want it for this particular task. And then over here we can define some of this. Now if you ever need to drop down and get some of those bigger wrinkles, you can like drop down to like, again, set more of your secondary forms and start having the skin overlapping. Always feel free to drop down, go through here. You can even mask, mask and invert and pull as needed to get that. And you can also go through here and inflate. And now that we have it Z-remeshed, we can actually get these wrinkles to really kind of behave a little bit more naturally as opposed to Dynamesh, which may have a tendency to, I'm going to go to subdivision level 4, and again, just kind of work a little bit on our secondary forms here. As this kind of go through, and we got these big old eyeballs here, and we'll just go in and start detailing this a little bit more. So standard brush Z-add, we'll crank that Z-add up a little bit, and we have our lazy mouse turned off, and then we'll go through here and we'll kind of dial in standard brush, clay brush. So I'll go in with my Damien standard or my standard brush with a little bit higher intensity, and we'll go through and we'll start dialing in some of this head detail here, and then we'll go in with our clay brush, or maybe just an inflate brush in some instances, and kind of build some of this up. Now again, I did drop it down to subdivision level 4, and then once you have enough of this detail, you'll be able to use cavity masking a little bit more effectively. Because as it was, I didn't have a whole lot of cavities on this guy. Oops. Shift, we'll put on Z-add again. And again, we're not Dynameshing anymore. We've got everything kind of locked in. Of course, you can always go through and you can change the geometry as needed. Nothing's going to stop you from doing that. Let's go into solo mode, and this is divided up into our polygroups from yesterday when we were doing Z-remesher. So we have all the access in the world to kind of get into these tough spots. You can also turn on under your display properties double, and you can hold down Alt, and you can kind of pull in like this, and that'll give you wrinkles from the outside. That was actually a little handy tip from the video I sent out just a second ago, going and sculpting on the inside to get a little bit better wrinkles. You can do that. What else we got? What else we got? I'll drop that down a little bit. We'll go ahead and now I'm going to drop my Z intensity down on my shift because I do by default have that set to smooth stronger, so I can get a little bit intense real fast. So we got this, and then I'm going to go ahead and just build up around that corner a little bit more. Here and here. And this is the kind of thing too where I, for my particular channel, turn perspective off real quick while I'm working. I don't like doing this type of work because it ends up just being like, let me just observe and let me think and let me just kind of go through and have some fun, just kind of getting this done. And in that case, I'm probably going to put on an episode of Forensics Files and just do that as opposed to sitting here and trying to entertain any semblance of entertainment, because boy, it just gets, there's not a whole lot to talk about, I suppose. You're just basically looking at your reference and your primary and secondary forms, and just trying to be mindful of where those details are going to end up going, and stuff like that. So, and also selling the idea of folded skin and stuff like that where it makes sense. Like through here, you can kind of push that a little bit. And as we start, if we start doing blend shapes, that's another thing we can kind of lean into is how we want to do a little bit of wrinkling as faces move and stuff like that. And if I wish I had a mirror with me, because that's super useful when you start dialing in blend shapes and stuff like that. So we'll go through here. Oh, and there's also a bunch of skin brushes you can use. There's obviously you can download Texture XYZ stuff and any variants of those all over the internet to go through there and get the massive pore detail, or you can do that in the texture later on in Substance Painter or Mari. World is your oyster. We can also go through here and we can kind of pinch these together a little bit more and run an inflate down here. And what else we want to do? We can feather in a little bit more. And then now when we start getting into super duper detail, this is where we may behoove us to kind of bump up to subdivision level 5 instead of keeping it on 4. This looks a little bit harsh on that angle, so let's go your trim dynamic to kind of tone that down a little bit. And now we're getting a little bit more details going. You know what else I could do is part of the marketing thing is going in and doing my little sizzle video for this, and I guess we could do that as we could stream that as well. Get into video editing and spicing it up and sound effects and music. We're gonna change this. We're gonna change this channel up. That's what I really want to be when I grow up. Is electronic dance music, club music. I hate going to clubs, but you know what? Let's get it. I want to be an MC. I've decided. Smooth brush. We're gonna crank that intensity up. The more high the resolution I go, the more I'm going to re-raise that resolution, or the intensity, I should say, of my brush here. So we got this here, and then yeah, we're going to have a little bit of a bump through here, and then this can kind of come through, and then we'll give a little bit more detail to this. So as the skin kind of pulls along here, and then this can kind of start happening. And then on the brows here, he does look a little bit older, a little bit more concerned. We are building in expression into this, which I may or probably wouldn't recommend. And we can always dial that expression back a little bit here, but we're going to kind of put in some heavier wrinkles up here. And this is definitely where I would turn off symmetry normally. Or I guess you could dial it in like this. But yeah, we're going to really kind of dig in some of these. And I'll go back in here with inflate and clay brush. And also imperfections are fun to do as well. It doesn't all have to be. Let's also go up here to subdivision level 5 now. And this is probably about as subdivided as I'm going to take this. If you wanted to go nuts with the really crazy poor detail, you go right ahead. And if you wanted to, we can go through here. We could maybe do like a spray. Well, maybe not with this stroke. Let's go to our standard brush here, and we'll change that to spray. And we'll do those tight alpha 23, and then Z intensity brought that way down. And then you can go through here, and you can kind of start adding a little bit of pebbling along here. And then again, if you do end up making alphas, just kind of look at like what neck skin does. Versus like pores on the nose are a little bit different. They all have little different skin textures, and like I said before, you can go and grab alphas and texture XYZs and stuff like that, but we'll just keep it simple. Happy little pores. And then where pores may not be so strong, up on the forehead, shiny cranium, and that's another thing too, is we can start doing some hair. And I'm going to drop this way down to sort of like level 2. And we can maybe use, not really. For jaw open and stuff, it might behoove us to maybe do a polygroup for that, but we'll see if we can't just drag and have it kind of mask out for us. There we go. And then control drag or lasso. So I'm just looking to grab just that lower jaw. Control tap to blur that out a little bit, and now we can have a little access to this. So if we wanted to close that mouth just a little bit, we could. And he's got kind of an underbite going, so we can pull that back like so. And then I'll crank this back up in level 3. And maybe go through here on these wrinkles and pinch those together just a little bit. And then maybe just a touch of inflate. See how exciting it is to watch me do this and just ramble? This is why I tend to avoid it. But So we got this, we're kind of spraying on detail. Let's switch that out of the spray stroke here. You can just go in here to drag rect and punch in like maybe some of these alphas here for some poor detail. You can, let's focal shift down to -100. Crank that Z intensity up. There we go. You can go through here and you can kind of just pop in some of this poor detail. But in this case, let's try drag dot. I'm just going to hold down Alt. Maybe we need to turn on backface masking because it is like going through. You can also just, we can just go into standard brush, turn it back to dot stroke, alpha off, and you can just go through and you can crank up your Z intensity and just kind of punch in as needed. And like I said before, turn off, actually that alpha really did help. Take it all back. See intensity down. Anyway, I was kind of playing around with some settings there. Build your brushes, build your skin brushes. Let's go ahead and take our history back. I don't really need all that much. Poor detail. Whoa. I don't want to go back that far. It's actually a bit laggier than I'm used to. Speaking of lag. Because we do have 1,000 histories sitting here. That's good enough. So, save often. Gauntlet, Z tool, 002. Cool. Face UVs, that's a good point. Let's do that. Let's put some UVs on this guy. So we'd already have this thing split up into polygroups here, although it may or may not be that useful for UVs, but we can switch that around, I think. So if we go in here to Z plugin, we can actually use surface noise to get some of that skin detail as well. So we can go in here to UV master, and we can say it is symmetrical. We do want to use our polygroups. We're going to work on clone, but in this case, yeah, let's go ahead and keep the arms chopped off and the head chopped off, but maybe grab these polygroups here. Ooh, there's a little gross polygroup in there. Hit Control W on that, so the head is all one polygroup, and then we can go in here and we can say enable control painting, because I want to protect his face here, and I want to attract where I don't really care about the seam, so maybe back here. You can also attract by AO. We'll go ahead and say ZBrush, do your thing. So now we can go through here and we can say unwrap, and then we can say flatten, and there we go. So we got our head UVs, and if we want to, we can check our seams. So we'll say unflatten, and then check seams. Looks about perfect to me, and then we'll say copy UVs, go back to our original here, and we will paste those UVs, and then now our guy has UVs. However, did we just lose our Polypaint? Let's undo that. We worked on a clone. Would I have lost? We were playing around with mesh details, but I shouldn't have lost my let's see here. 5. When did I lose my Polypaint? Hold on just a second. Load tool. Okay, there's my Polypaint. So maybe have that on, because we certainly don't want to lose that. Interesting. Real interesting. Wonder if that's a bug or if I'm just dumb. So here, let's go ahead and delete all these out of here so we can stay organized. So we got this. We have our Polypaint on there. We'll go ahead and go back to our skin shader, And so now, think, man, think. Think, think, think. Here, here, here. We have this. We have Polypaint. We do have low res. UV master should be okay. It shouldn't blow away anything, right? So Control Shift here, here, here. Oops. Here. Control W. Let's turn on. Oh yeah, we do. We did turn on enable control painting. Maybe that was it. So go through here and we say protect. Oh, protect and attract's already there. So we're going to say unwrap. A little bit slower this time. Flatten. Oh, turn on polygroups and symmetry. That's why it went slower. And then flatten. Better. Check our seams. Great. Copy UVs. Let's turn off Polypaint. Copy UVs. Go back here. We have our Polypaint on. Paste UVs. There we go. So now at this point, I'm sorry, I don't know what happened there. Texture map, we can say create new from Polypaint, and then we just transfer our Polypaint information to a texture, and then we can say clone it and export it and all that good stuff. You can also go through there and you can do your texture adjust, I think, adjust colors. So even on the texture itself, you can go through and adjust colors. What CPU do you have? I have the AMD Ryzen 3970X 32-core processor and the NVIDIA GeForce RTX 2080 Ti. In ZBrush, it's a little more CPU intensive when we get into Substance Painter, and some of the Houdini stuff will rock this CPU, or certainly in Substance Painter GPU focused, especially, well, iRay does both. If you want, I guess, you know what, I do have a hardware-ish video on kind of that. If we go to my YouTube channel here, Mechanical Skull, Substance Painter, oh yeah, okay, so we can just go to the playlist here. If you missed it, we do have a Mechanical Skull high-res, rendering, and Substance Painter. So if you go to the Substance Painter section, we talk a little bit about Substance Painter hardware and performance. So you can check all those videos out if you want to. And then if you want to know how I did the original Skull and the game res, you can go and check that out at Gumroad, QBrush, any of those places, and you can get the entire 11-hour series. Full video list here. Stupid, I just want that. And here's the full video list. So here's the videos you can get just kind of watching them, and then here's the game res and the high res and the game res if you're interested in that. If you're not, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. But that's a video list, curated video list for you. Oh, nice. Yeah, good. Well, I mean, honestly, Apex is way more important than this, so you can just watch the recording. It's always fun to do Creatures No Men. What if you're sculpting young and beautiful people? It's hard to tell if your work is unfinished or really just smooth face features. You just need to worry more about, it's not any more harder. Well, you can certainly, if you're just doing like alien creature stuff, then yeah, you can kind of just go off the rails. But really, you just worry more about the forms. So in that case, I would, it wouldn't do the process any different than this. If I'm doing stylized stuff, maybe you would start with more primitives. But instead of going through and doing this type of stuff, you would do smoother forms. And you could turn this into a female relatively quickly, I suppose. Anything about how audio teams work at game studios? It seems jobs for those roles are a lot rarer than artist programmers. Yeah, so when you're looking at the numbers, the audio team gets generally pretty small, I would assume. Mainly outsourced for sound effects. We don't. At Certain Affinity, we have an audio team. Boy, I really don't know. Low Miller is our audio guy, and then I mean, there's a few people in the audio department. I'm trying to think if there's anything I could tell you that wouldn't just be me. Probably not. They have really cool. Our audio video teams actually got a lot of really cool equipment. I'm kind of jealous whenever I go see their offices. They got the rooms that are all padded up. Cool. Hey everybody, thanks for showing up. Again, if I miss anything, just I apologize. How's everything? Are you experiencing any lag with heavier scenes? No. Not any more lag than I would get using anything else. If you wanted to, I suppose what you could do is you could turn off the threading and just use your cores. But well, that's the thing too, is this is the 3rd gen. So if you are using earlier versions with the Newman nodes, there might be a little bit more consideration there for dropping in, depending on what you're working on. But honestly, with this 3rd gen, let's do workstation. With this 3rd gen stuff, I haven't had any problems at all. So here's the update to that if you want to check out the updated information on the hardware stuff. I'm starting to learn ZBrush. How should I go about learning it? I finished your Intro to ZBrush Part 1. I watched a tutorial about anatomy. Should I start Part 2 or practice doing some stuff? I would skip. Well, the Intro to ZBrush stuff is fine. But on my YouTube channel specifically, the new Intro to ZBrush playlist is the ZBrush for Concept and Iteration. There's some, this is kind of like the get started. But if you're just learning ZBrush, like, I don't know, I'm biased in that I have a lot of ZBrush stuff on my channel. But maybe this will be your next one. And a lot of the stuff you probably already know, but this is another good get started. It's 57 videos. And yeah, if you want the full video list, oh, you know what? I don't have a link to it. Sorry. Let me go here. The full video list is this, and this gets updated every release of ZBrush, so you can kind of see some of this updated video, renumbered video, new video, all for 2020 stuff. So this, it's the first section's on YouTube, and then units 2 through 7 are right there. To do hands, or just pick a base model and work from that. Usually, I'll just do a base model from hands. I don't bother with like doing Z-spheres and stuff. Or if you really want to speed it up, just grab some scan data hands. 2nd gen seems about 50 million. 50 million is going to be laggy. I mean, that's not a lot of things can handle real time 50 million. So, but yeah, the third gen, I definitely noticed an uptick in. Oh, alpha off. I definitely noticed an uptick in performance. Not that the 2nd gen was anything to sneeze at, but yeah, that 3rd gen's ridiculous. But you know what we could do? We could do a something on just like doing a female or something like that, or a child. That would basically just be it's exact same. There's not anything different about how you would approach the sculpt necessarily, other than just paying more attention to forms and stuff. Because what I mean, I mean that's kind of dumb to say too, because obviously you're going to pay attention to forms on this as well. It's not like you can be like, I'm going to put wrinkles on them, so I'm not going to pay attention of correct volumes or forms or anything. You're just going to put wrinkles on eventually. So now I do get the point that it's like, well, it's a lot easier to hide sketchy decision making behind surface detail, and that's certainly true. But you're right, it is funner to do this in ZBrush just because there's more techniques and stuff to show while you're doing this type of thing, as opposed to doing something that's technically kind of it's maybe considered harder because you're just you're having to be very maybe a little more careful if you're not hiding bad decisions behind surface detail. But it's easier in the sense that you don't have to go through and do all this stuff, But this is fun stuff, especially in ZBrush, because it's just kind of go through and kind of zone out and just do it. So yeah, I did drop subdivision levels a little bit here because we're just going to go, speaking of overdoing it on surface detail, we're going to overdo it on some surface detail here. So we go through here, and the ears are going to be not super detailed or anything like that. And we got our primary wrinkles up through here, so we'll go through and we'll pinch, like I said, pinch these together, maybe run an inflate along here, and maybe go through your clay brush. Then when we get to level 5, that's where we can go through and we can do, maybe I need to drop that Z intensity down on my brush here, because this is where it's like, okay, your primary wrinkles give way to, you know, the micro folds. And if you've been scrunching your brow up for 50, 60 years, you're going to have all sorts of little memory folds, just like when you, I don't mean this to be derogatory, but you bag up an old pair of jeans and you put it in your laundry hamper and then you take it out 3 days later, you're going to have a bunch of little memory folds on it. Not to say old people are like an old pair of jeans, but they actually are. Don't tell them I said that. They have a lot of voting power. They'll vote me right out of the stream. Go through here, and again, we're just kind of giving way to a little bit more surfacey stuff. And then I'm actually going to drop down subdivision level 3, maybe even, and start popping out some of this with my clay brush. A little bit more contrast in some of these areas, and then maybe subdivision level 4. You can also do skin sliding when you start doing your blend shapes and stuff with a morph project. Double Negative had, I think they talked a little bit about it in that Lion King video I sent out earlier, but Double Negative also had a little bit on that. Maybe we can play around with that. I don't know. Here, here, here. And then it gets real quiet, and this is where I need that electronic dance music, hip-hop beats behind me. I need a hype man, I need some hip-hop beats, and then I'd have a real streaming channel. There we go. And then back up here. So in level 5. Go through here and maybe pop some of these things out and beep boop pop. Put some little surface indentions and details through here. And I'm being fairly willy-nilly about it, you know, but you probably want to go through and pay a little more attention. So now we have surface detail. Did you see that Blender cloth brush? Yes, I did. Looks very cool. I haven't seen anything super intriguing it being used on other than mushing cloth around on a surface, but I could see where that could come in handy, you know, laying out your primary cloth and then going through there and just using that to kind of bunch up and make decisions. You know, it's a good start. Just like, you know, using Marvelous Designer for your primary and secondary forms, that could be another really cool tool for going in and getting that first read and that first pass really quickly. Can't hurt, right? But like I said, I have, unless somebody's made something with it that was anything other than kind of mushing cloth around, I haven't really seen anything that intriguing just yet. But you know, it's early. It's early. Okay, getting caught up again. Have you seen or worked on any of the dev kits of the PS5 and Xbox? I haven't. Mainly have viewport and audio lags whenever I rotate the model. Huh. That I'm not sure about. Yeah, audio lags, that's interesting. Usually audio gets pretty high priority when it comes to that type of stuff. It's not usually relegated to the back. Yeah, that I'm not sure about. Gen 2, I don't remember having too many issues, but I can kind of just speak for Gen 3 is what I'm using now, and it's been a dream. And all this gets exported of a displacement map if it's going to game production. For game production, I don't know that I'd use displacement maps. You can use displacement maps. There's nothing stopping you other than performance and the engine you're using. If I was doing this for cinematic, what I'd probably do is bake a displacement map from like maybe subdivision level 1 to 2 or 3, and then a normal map from 3 to 10 or whatever I ended up stopping at. Probably what I would do. Let's see if we can punch this up a little bit. So I'm going to turn on our skin shader here. We'll go back to skin shader 4, and we really cranked up that to quite a bit. So we're going to go back to our diffuse. We're going to dumb that down just a tiny bit. And then now we can go through here and we can do masking. We can try this. Mask by cavity. Now if I just want to see the mask, I'm going to go through, I'm going to turn off my Polypaint temporarily, and then we can just do a mask by cavity. You can also try peaks and valleys. We'll stick with cavity first. Turn that blur down. And cavity profile. Let's drop that down a bit. Swing it the other way. No. Let's crank it up. Okay, and then maybe a blur of 2. Boy, that's touchy. 2. Intensity 100. You can also go into mask adjust if you needed to adjust that. You could actually blur it out a little bit more, so you get the blur here. I think blur of 1, mask profile. That might work. So we have our mask here. We'll turn our Polypaint back on so we can see that. Now I am going to keep that mask on, but I'm going to invert it in this case. And then instead of view mask, I'm going to turn it off. So now I can go through here, and I'm just going to use the standard brush, I think. RGB turned on. And we can go through here, and we can kind of play around with dialing in some detail in the wrinkle areas. Here, RGB intensity. And then, you know what, let's go in here to a lighter color. So in some of these wrinkles, we can kind of go through and on the ruddy areas, I am going to push it a little pinker. And then down through here, we'll switch over to a little cooler. Now you got to be careful. Some of the cavity areas are going to be very broad, like under the nose and stuff. So in that case, you can always go through. You could actually be painting this in a layer if you really wanted to. If you really wanted to be cool like that. And we'll go back up here. And then we'll go ahead and control drag to unmask, and then we'll go through here and we'll kind of punch back up. Some of these areas. And you can also switch back to like a basic material. Oh boy, we messed that up pretty good for our rendering. Let's crank that diffuse up, and then for the specular, we can try going down here to Fong to Blinn, and then maybe cranking that specular down a bit. Diffuse is up, ambient up a bit. Let's give it a little bit more of a different look. And then while we're doing this, we can also use this for sculpting as well. The matte caps aren't going to react to light, but these regular materials will. So you can kind of use this to kind of drive some of your decision making, which in this case probably helps a lot. But oh boy, I'm behind. Going to work as a bump map. Yes, you could also do a bump map. Displacement normal is usually what I end up doing, but you could do a bump map as well. Some studios still use real-world clay sculpting, then 3D scan the bust and take it in a ZBrush. Is this practical? Probably they do. Practical, you know. Sure. I don't want to poo-poo that too much because there's value in that. There's nothing wrong with doing that. But as far as just like again, getting real-time symmetry and being able to go through and do iterations very quickly and duplicate things off and save things on layers and have undos. There's something certainly to be said for just being able to throw down traditionally, and I'm not going to take anything away from that. But as far as production goes, it's hard to beat. Just like, do you do concept oil paintings or do you do concept paintings and digitally? You could do oil paintings, sure. Is anybody going to pay you to do oil paintings? If you're really good. Do you work with UDIMs much? Not that much, but we do talk a little bit about UDIMs in my Mechanical Skull series, but I think it's in the game res portion. I wanted to create a hat like this, like so. We can do that. Actually, let's make this hat. We'll start decking this guy out with a little bit of cool stuff. Let's do it. So I created a model, made holes in it via live Boolean, but the geometry of the model is now broken and ZeroMesh is not doing a good job, so the model is now unsculptable for high detail. Was a good workflow for stuff like this. Well, I don't know that you necessarily needed to use Booleans on this. This looks fairly straightforward. So let's try this. Let's go into, ooh, now I'm excited. So we got our teeth here. So I'm going to go in here and we're going to say transparent, brush, insert, or you know what? We can start with a cone. That might be better. Let's do this. Switch here. Let's go to a cone here, edit, and let's play around with this initialize settings a little bit. Let's do taper. We can taper that top a bit, and then X, Y, Z size. There we go. We'll kind of flatten that a little bit. So this will be the overall just kind of shape I'm looking for. And I think we can work with this. And that's got about, I mean, I could sit there and count the number it goes around, but I think we'll stick with this. We'll say, okay, this is fine. We'll go ahead and say, make Polymesh 3D. I'm going to do a quick group by normals. Drop that max angle down a little bit. There we go. Control-Shift-Tab this one, and we'll say delete hidden. Oh, I probably should have played around with those settings a little bit more to get rid of these lines. We can try going into geometry. Ooh, I don't think it's going to work that well, but we can try maybe delete loops. Oh, boy, that worked great. Sometimes it works great. And we'll go ahead and start with that. So we'll go ahead and go back to our body here. Turn off transparency. Control-N to clear our canvas, sorry. And then we'll go into Subtool, and we'll just append that cone, Polymesh Cone 3D we're working on. So this will be this. Now if I want to flatten this out a little bit more, I can just kind of scale it. So this will be, now that I look at this, what kind of hat is this? You got a name for this type of hat? So I could get some more reference. I'm going to assume that they don't have a hole in the top because that seems a little silly for rain. There's a rainy scene, and let's go ahead and say, let's go, instead of mask lasso, mask pin. I'm going to mask these out here, invert that, and then pull that in. So this can be kind of the start of our hat. Now, if I want to, I can just take this geometry as is and go ahead and you know, start modeling this. However, what I might want to do, you know what? I'm a reference guy. I gotta have it. Traditional. It's called a sedge hat, bamboo hat, dually, bamboo hat. Let's try bamboo hat. Yeah, images. Now we're talking. Oh man, we can do all sorts of cool stuff with this. This is a good candidate for nanomesh as well. So this one has kind of overlapping things. These ones are kind of a little bit more just kind of weave. This one is very segmented like this, so we can play around with this maybe a little bit. That's a little bit more woven as well. We'll do something. The concept itself was a little bit looser, so we'll lean into that a little bit. We'll do something like this or like this, but we're not going to sweat it too much. So we're going to do nano mesh, and now we can do surface noise, but I like nano mesh a little bit more for this particular instance. So what we're going to do is we'll do, we can also need to do hair. We can do that as well. Let me think about this. We want to layer straps, and we want it to follow that, but we don't necessarily want it to follow the geo, just that direction. It might just be easier just to manually do that, but and we can also do a tiling nano mesh as well. How crazy do I want to get? Let's keep it simple. So we're going to go in here, and we're going to say Polymesh 3D, drag down our canvas, go into edit mode. We'll go down here to initialize, QCube, W, shrink this down, And let's go, you know what, let's do this, resolution of 1. We just need something simple and then mirrored in the X direction. X symmetry W, scale it down, and we can actually use array mesh for a good portion of this as well. So we can go through here and we'll say U, and then we'll go over here to array mesh, and although I wonder, because I can also use nanomesh to have this, let me think about this. Let's try this first. Sorry, I keep second guessing myself. So let's turn on double so I can see what I'm doing. Auto groups, isolate this top one or bottom one, doesn't really matter, I suppose. Here. Fine. Insert single edge loop. Give me this one. Delete hidden. I'm going to go in here to... Okay, I am second guessing myself, but we're going to go in here to brush, create, insert, mesh, new. That was kind of a roundabout way to get there, but I'm just going to try some stuff out. So we're going to use this as our form base, but we're going to go through here and we're just going to kind of put some slats on there, and we wanted to have it kind of conform to that surface. So we're just going to go through here and just start dialing this in. So over here, and again, we're kind of playing it fast and loose. It's going to be a little bit messier than a really tight-knit hat. But that's kind of what the concept had, so that's what I'm going to stick with. So I'm going to go through here. Or you know what we could do? Instead of doing this, because it's just going to require some cleanup, let's do this. Let's go through here, and I'm going to say geometry, modify topology, and we're going to do unweld groups border. But in order to do that, we're going to drop our groups by normals way down, and then we can do an unweld groups border. So now all of these things are separated out, and then we can go in here to our subtool, and we can do temporarily split, group split, and then these are all going to be separate pieces. So now I can go through here and start modifying these. So I don't need them to be, you know, it would have been a better idea if I would have added some more resolution in there first. Let's do this. And geometry, modify topology, weld points. So I'm going to weld this all back. If I can find it. There we go, weld points. Insert multiple edge loops, interactive elevation. I'm just going to pull a slight pull out slightly just to give that a little bit of a little bloat along there. And then I'll do another group by normals, max angle like 6. There we go. So then I could split all these off, and then I could run nanomeshes down them as needed. I could also just kind of start modeling it. So let's do that. Group split, and then now through here I'm going to hit W. I'm going to find that surface normal, and I can go through here and I can do like a taper, and I can go through here and I can, oof, that's a little bit off there, isn't it? Taper, and then I can go through here and I can kind of broaden that out a little bit. And another thing we could do is we can just use array mesh for this. So instead of, you know, we'll keep this one. Yeah, we'll keep those around just for the hell of it. But we'll go through here and just to kind of test this idea out. This might work a little bit faster. Let's go in here to array mesh, and we'll say array mesh, lock position, lock size, transpose, hit Y, so we go into transpose. I'm going to set my pivot here to the center, and then I'm going to say I want maybe 12 repeats, and then we're going to do a rotate in the Y amount, something like 360 degrees. And now I can just kind of work on one mesh here. I think that'll work fine. Why make it more difficult? So we're going to take this one here, and we're just going to go and delete. So long story short, just use array mesh with a cone and you're good to go. But you know what? Hopefully some of those techniques will come in handy later. Maybe it was stupid of me to do a lot of that, but you know what? Deal with it. So we have this here, and we're going to kind of broaden these out, and all of these are kind of going to work together to get that overall shape. And then through here, we're going to kind of take these corners out so it's a little bit closer. Now in the original one, oh, you know what? I shouldn't have deleted that original. We can just recreate that real quick. So That's kind of what we're looking for, and we can go through and we can add some of that other detail here when it comes into just kind of putting in the binding. It's going to kind of keep that sane. But on here, we can go ahead and, you know what, let's just do this. Let's go in here to insert multiple edge loops, and we'll just kind of bring. And you know what, let's give ourselves a little bit more. Insert multiple edge loops, and I'm just going to put one down the middle here. Let's turn array mesh off. There we go. Okay. And then through here, we can say maybe inset polygroup all. And we can go through here and we can just kind of dial in some of that detail here. Is that really what I want to do, or do I want to put, let's wait on that one. Let's do this one. Let's say bevel edge loop complete, and we'll kind of start dialing in a little bit of detail through here. And then let's go through here and actually do want to get some thickness first. You can work on thin meshes, but let's go ahead and say QMesh polygroup all. We'll dial in some thickness, and then we'll say bevel edge loop complete here. And then we can say QMesh polygroup all, or you know what, let's do inset polygroup all region, and we'll kind of pull in just a little bit around that, and then we can say QMesh polygroup all. You can hold down shift, you can kind of pop that out, and that'll kind of start that detail here. And then for the individual pieces, although those bevels are a little heavy, let's really there we go. Inset polygroup all region through here, and then again let's keep that real tight, and then QMesh polygroup all. Hold down shift. Dogs are going nuts. And then for these individual pieces, we can also go through here and we can say inset polygroup all, don't inset region. And then you can say QMesh polygroup all. Hold down shift. You just kind of pull along that. And then you have kind of that working detail. You can hit D for dynamic, and then maybe say, let's put a crease tolerance in there, crease level of 1, smooth subdiv of 2, or crease level of 2, smooth subdiv of 3. You can put more control loops in there. Also, that basic material is pretty bright. But that can be the start of that kind of look. And also, let's go through here. Let's hit Y, and I'm going to thin these out just a bit. Let me see if there's a better way to... And then we'll go back in here, and we can do like a bend arc. Something like that. So now, let's go through here. We can move this stuff around. And this could kind of just be the base of these pieces here. And now let's go in here and we'll say append that original cone 3D here. And I'm going to steal some of this geometry. So through here, we can use this to kind of do our, let's go ahead and say QMesh polygroup all. We'll give it certain thickness here. And now that we have a polygroup here, we can go through and we can say QMesh polygroup all, or QMesh polygroup island. Come on. So that can be one, and then I think there was just stuff in here, so we'll go to insert multiple edge loops through here. You know what, I guess we can kind of do interactive elevation. And then just through some of here, I'm just going to take some random. So polygroup, poly loop, so maybe this one, this one, this one, and this one. Good enough. So for this little end piece, we're going to say QMesh, let's do this. QMesh polygroup island, and we'll go bloop. And then for these ones here, let's do this. Control Shift, grab a little piece of this, Control Shift A, and we'll go ahead and split that. And then on this one, we'll go ahead and just isolate those polygroups here. Delete hidden, isolate that, delete hidden. And now we can just say QMesh polygroup island, or polygroup all in this case. And then we have those details out. And it's not perfect because I didn't keep the original geometry from my other mesh, but we can go ahead and kind of fudge it a little bit. Now if you want to hit D for dynamic in this case, because we're just doing, you know, fairly reasonable detail, you can do that. And you can even do like a crease PG, crease level of 2, smooth subdiv of 3, or maybe crease level of 1 even on these pieces here. And that'll kind of give you a preview. Now for this one, let's go into our move brush, auto masking. Here, and then we're going to say topological, and then now I can go through here and we can kind of mess around a little bit with symmetry and moving this stuff around and mixing and matching pieces so that makes sense. And maybe you can go through here and you can like break this string if you want to. So if you do Shift D, you know what, let's do this. Let's say Control D to subdivide, delete lower. That'll give us a little bit more. Actually, let's do this. Undo that. I'm going to do a crease PG. We're going to go Control D, delete lower, go into solo mode. I do like this. I'm going to get rid of some of these, so we're going to go to Insert, Single Edge, hold down Alt. I don't need all this geometry, I just needed some more resolution on those outside edges here. Easy enough to fix. You know what might help actually? Let's see if this will do it. Geometry. Delete loops. Boy, that's just working great today. I love it. So just go to geometry, delete loops with that angle threshold, and then now we hit D for dynamic, and then we say crease level of 1, smooth subdiv of 2. Now we can go through here, and if I wanted to do a little bit, we still have our move topological turned on. Ugh. Give me a second. When you start breaking stuff off, it may get a little unstable. Hey, we still got our guy back there. But luckily, it should save right where we left off, so not a huge deal. Just gives me a second to go back over here and get caught up. So here is our recovered project. We really just need the Z tool, I think. I don't think I need an entire project's worth of stuff. And we'll go back to our basic material we're kind of playing around with, and cool. Okay, getting caught up. Correct hole in Z modeler. Slice the tool and insert the point to give the geometry that depends on the shape of the polygons. Clip curve, same. Yeah, that sounds right. Oh, I just got rid of my reference, dang. Let's see. This one, so like doing a hole like that. This is Z modeler techniques. I also have Z modeler basics, but you know what? This whole playlist might be useful. Go for it. 3ds Max might have scripts that align the shape with the circle. Maybe they're the same script. Oh, there's also circular in Z modeler. Sometimes that's useful. So you have a cylinder here, edit, make polymesh 3D. And go through here and you can be like, okay, I'm gonna paint these and then, oh, what is it, spherize? Bring, brong. So you can kind of do that. You can also do like what we were talking about, where you can like split point, or you can even go in here and you can split ring. A lot of different ways. Cool, thanks for showing up. Manual rate to ball slap transparency texture on it. Cool. Do you make the Boolean the very last thing you do? Yeah, I don't know. I don't use a whole lot of Booleans, if I'm honest. Sometimes on hard surface stuff, but not for like what I'm doing. Not for like this type of stuff. I don't see a whole ton of use for Booleans necessarily. How long does it take to go from beginner to advanced level to be good enough for jobs? Kind of depends on timing and luck, and what type of work you do, and what's available, and tailoring, and really, honestly, a lot of it, so much of it is selling yourself. Your portfolio is so important. I can't emphasize that enough. You could be really good and have a crap portfolio, and it's going to be real hard. It's going to be real difficult to convince people that you're worth hiring. You got to show them. They will never believe you unless you show them. Panel loops. We can, you know what? We can do some panel loops on this. We'll talk about that. Tell me something about portfolio or showreel for an organic modeler. That'll just go back. I mean, this may not answer all your questions, but this blog has a lot about portfolio stuff in there. I'll link that at the bottom. Some of the Z-modeler options are going off my laptop screen. Maybe play around with your interface size and the preferences interface button size. That might help. Which brush is better for drawing hair on a character? We'll get into hair today too. ZBrush on an 8 gig RAM laptop is followed cheese, cotton polyester fabric detail, and clothing and texture using Polypaint because I can't run Substance Painter on my laptop. Yeah, you would use Surface Noise for that if you were doing it in ZBrush. Get all the render passes in Photoshop rather than one by one. Yes, you can use the Z plugin. ZBrush to Photoshop will give you all of those passes and way more. Gizmo modifiers, yeah. And then actually, in two of these, you know what? Let's just do it from ArtStation. That's a little bit more prettier to look at than my playlist here. Two places you can go there. ZBrush 2018 What's New and ZBrush 408 What's New. ZBrush 2018 What's New goes into a ton of the new Gizmo modifier stuff. But also ZBrush 408, so you can check those out. So I'm going to say you blog and then that. So ZBrush 2018 What's New and ZBrush 408 What's New. Should be all about the Gizmo stuff in there. Encounter problems when importing FBX on ZBrush with UVs and then the UVs just disappear. No, but I could see how maybe there might be a weird issue or a bug. Do you recommend any non-Wacom graphics tablets? All I've ever used is the Intuos, so I would be lying if I said, oh, this one worked great, because I've never used them. There might be some great ones out there, I just wouldn't know what they are. Cool! Alrighty, so let me go back to my... Okay, so we got this. Now, we want maybe a little bit more... like I said, we're going to kind of do maybe some breakup. And also, let's go in here to inflate, and we're just going to deflate. So if you tap, oh, not on this one, we're going to go through here and we're going to deflate this just to get us a little bit more stringy kind of look. And we'll hit D for dynamic. And in this case, we could just say, you know what, crease level of 0. And, well, we could say crease level whatever until we say uncrease all. And that'll just kind of give us kind of a ropey texture. So we can deflate it down, and then we can inflate it up. Oops, did I cross the threshold there? Just to kind of get us... You know what, let's do this. Let's do a little bit of a crease polygroup, but we'll do a crease level of 1. Smooth subdiv of 2. That'll work. Okay, so this is what we're looking for. And if we wanted to break through these, let's go through here and we'll weave this one a bit. So we'll say this one goes over and under. Oops, auto masking needs to get turned back on. Topological. And align cursor surface off. That's under your preferences edit, I believe. Here, over, under. Something like this. So, here. And if you wanted to even like get rid of some of these areas or put like a little bump in them, you could just simply go through here and you could say QMesh, a single poly, and be like, you know what, you're gone. And you're gone, and whatever you want to do, you're gone. And if you wanted to maybe go to the ends of those and bulk them up or maybe tie some knots in them, you could. You could also use Z-spheres for this, I suppose, but I think this is fine. And we'll also go through here. You know what? Let's do the same thing on this one. So geometry. On this one, dynamic, I'm just going to hit apply, and that'll give us that. We'll say delete lower, and then through here, this one may not work that well. We go in here to edge loop. Delete loops. Boy, it really just does work now. That is so fascinating to me. So now we can go through here and D. And go through here and kind of mess around with this little edge here. Now, it does also looks like in our concept there's some like fibers kind of sticking off here. So this we could have a little bit of fun with as well. I'm going to go ahead and keep that array mesh. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate that off, and then on our original here, oh, we know what, we lost history. That's okay. Really quickly, so we have our duplicate here, so I'm going to go into solo mode. I'm going to temporarily turn off array mesh, And then we're going to just simplify the heck out of this. So Shift D. And is there something I can just grab? So I don't want to collapse all this. So I'm just going to say U, Control Shift S to shrink, delete hidden, close holes. No, I have to grab all of it. And they go everywhere. So let's do this. Control Shift, let's go to select lasso. Shift S. Boy, it's getting... Now I wish I hadn't lost my history. Let's do this. Let's do, I'm just going to grab, let's do a group by normals. And I'm going to grab these two. And these. Oh, is our group by normal still way down? That'll help. You, 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 and you. Not you, not you. Okay, delete hidden. Ah. There we go. Now, can I just grab these? I guess that would have worked easier. So we have all of this here, and now let's see if I do a close holes on here. That'll work. So I'm going to take this top piece here, delete hidden. Take this top piece here. Auto groups. Delete hidden. Zero mesher half to size down to 0. Give me some new geometry. So now I can use this. Sorry, that was a bit much. Now I can use this to kind of dictate and also go in here to array mesh. So now I have simplified things. So I'm going to start just pulling little lines off of here. And I wonder, I can use array mesh for this. I can also try and use a little bit of nano mesh. Let me think. No, we'll stick with array mesh for now. So I'm just going to go through here and we're going to say bevel edge loop complete, and then bevel edge loop complete. And then even on through here, let's do this. Let's do insert single edge loop on this side and over here. Why not? And then through there, we'll go polygroup poly loop. So here, U, and Control Shift tap, delete hidden, Q mesh, polygroup ball. I'm going to pull this out. So now we have a little bit of more detail. So we're going to go through here and we'll do a deflate on here. Or you know what we could do? We could just do a smooth. So deformation, smooth. Polish is probably going to destroy those. So let's go down here to smooth. Perfect. So now we have just kind of some thatch going on here. And we can use that to kind of break this up a little bit. So now it's still array mesh. So all I need to do is go in here to move. Topological stills turn on. So go through here and we can kind of start maybe poking these through. And then once we get to that point, I want all of that geometry. You can say, go ahead, this is probably the easiest way to do this is geometry, convert BPR to geo, and then we'll just do a quick auto groups. And now they're all different groups, and you can still use topological. You can also go in here to mask by polygroups up to 100. And now you can go through here and you can just really start playing around with these. And you can also hit W and control tap any of these, and you can go through with your camera view and kind of rotate these things around. So very quickly go through and kind of play around with how some of these are grouped and stuff like that, so they're not so even. And I wonder, you know what you could do also, before I did the array mesh, you could go through and delete these lines so you don't get that fall off, and that way it'd be a lot easier to move around in straight lines as opposed to having to kind of do what I'm doing. But this also gives you quite a bit of leeway as far as positioning and all that good stuff. So anyway, something like this. And then we can hit D for dynamic on that, and we're going to say no creasing. So uncrease all, smooth so div of 2. And that'll be kind of those thatches. Cool. And oh, CPU again. It's this one. AMD Ryzen Thunderbird 3970X, 32 core processor. If you want more information, go to my YouTube channel and type in workstation. And then I'll give you that updated here. But wow, cool. How many times talk about our Lord and Savior Blender? Blender is one of those things that's kind of on my backlog. It's been on my backlog for about 3.5 years now. One day, make an animation character. It will be pre-rendered animation. So do you have any suggestions about poly count, and should I merge everything before including clothes before rigging? That kind of depends on what the end result's going to be, basically, or if you're doing like cloth simulation, or if you're doing like if it's just going to be joint driven, or a mixture of both. That gets complicated. Poly count's always going to be keep it as low as you possibly can within what you're trying to. I mean, if you're trying to do something very high fidelity, you don't want to just over crank the poly count just because. You want to always poly count's always going to be use the least amount of polys as possible. It just makes downstream dependencies smoother. I'm done with the processor. Turning that into low poly hat would the best option be to project a lower poly model off the head. I know you probably don't have time to do that. Yeah, that would basically be, I would probably work a little bit more constrained if I was going to, like, okay, I'm going to do this for a game res, so I wouldn't have like these things just kind of, I would work a little bit more carefully. Where I'm not leaving the surface too much because I don't want any projection errors or anything weird going on. Although, you know what? Let's do this. Let's say go to center. I'm going to control drag out a copy of this. So underneath, I kind of want that detail as well. It kind of just adds a lot, I think. Something like that. Cool. All right, so we're doing pretty good. Hair we'll get to at some other point, I suppose. But we got this here. Let's go ahead and so here's one thing we do. We have a bunch of different subtools here, and I want to see his face a little bit more. Oh, you know what? And this was what was it called? A bamboo hat. Let's see what else we need for this. We might need a little bit more. Looks like maybe a string. Oh, we can. We'll do a string and we'll do a bow. We'll do the whole kit and caboodle here. We'll do that just to kind of finish this thing off. So I do want to see a little bit more of his face. So I'm going to hit W and then say move multiple. And then looks like everything's already selected, but I'm going to grab all these pieces and then unhash those pieces. And if this ever gives you problems, oops, let's unhash the eyeballs as well. Let's do this. Let's say, oh, you know what? This is still an array mesh. Am I ready to consolidate? Yep, I think I am. BPR to geo. Tool geometry. There we go. And that one just doesn't seem to want to come along. I wonder if I have it masked. Here, unmask. Yeah, I did have it masked. There we go. Something like this. And then now let's go ahead and tie that ribbon. Now this could be simple enough just to kind of do square, square, and then tie. We don't have to do anything too fancy with these spheres right off the bat. We'll do that. So Alt E M. Sorry, those are my hotkeys. We'll go ahead and hit X symmetry. In fact, let's grab the teeth. So I know the teeth don't have any subdivision history, and they're sitting there right in the middle of the scene. So I can go through here and I can just grab out. Oh, you know what? They do have dynamic turned on. That's okay. Split hidden. Or split mask point, sorry. Shift D to turn off dynamic. And really quickly, we'll just go through here and we'll just do something like this. We're going to go, let's turn on LSim so we can scale across that local symmetry. And just real quick, I'm also going to do a quick save, which is 9 on your keyboard. And then under quick save here, we're going to go grab the latest quick save. Just joined you, made the model an hour ago, or yeah, this is just the last maybe 20 minutes or so, the hat. Holes and damage like in concept art, you could just model it in, or use textures. Polygroups, I mean, it has a bunch, but that's just kind of how we modeled it. So kind of looks like that. And you can, and in polygroup, the best thing about polygroups is you can go through and you can change them on the fly. When I'm in an external program that's not ZBrush for modeling, one of the first things I miss is the ability to have polygroups. So we're going to go to Unmatched Mesh Center here, and I'm going to set it right along that surface normal. And I'll go ahead and rotate it. So here, we're going to set this somewhere in here so it's kind of tied up. And then we're going to hit W and then Control, drag out. And this is going to be, it's going to kind of go from that point to, say, this point. It looks like it follows that jaw like so. So we'll kind of turn that. And then for underneath, we'll go ahead and just continue this like so. So I'm just creating basically just a path. If you want more information on controlling curves, on my ArtStation page, there's a thing called ZBrush Summit 2018, and I have a ton of that in there. We're going to cover a little bit of it today. So now I'm going to go through here and we're going to say delete a single poly here, and then here, and then here, and then here, and then here. And then now we can just say bridge 2 holes, and we're going to bridge this to this. And you can put in as much or as little. We can always add more subdivisions later, but I'm going to keep it as simple as possible, and then again add as needed. You can actually pull out and you can put a lot more geometry in here if you need to, but in our case I think we can keep it simple. Now on this one, I have some weird midline issues. We're going to go to Insert Single Edge, hold down Alt, and let's do a quick mirror and weld across the X, and then we'll just grab those points, pull them down. So that's going to be the start of that. However, we do need to tie a knot. I mean, we don't have to, but it might be nice. Now for knot tying, I am going to use these spheres. So let's go through here, and again, like we were talking about earlier with polygroups, we can just do a quick group by normals, mirror and weld, and then we have perfect polygroups. Let's go and turn on match by polygroups out. And we can also do this. We can also do a polish by features, and that'll go ahead and smooth out these areas based on their polygroups as well. So that just saves me a little bit of, possibly a little bit of time. Now you could also like mask and blah, 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 do all that stuff, but since we're just doing basic simple shapes, something like that'll work fine. Now for the other stuff, let's go into append a Z-sphere, and we'll go ahead and select it. And we're going to go ahead and scale this down. And we're going to go ahead and go into transparency mode. And let's talk about that knot. So we did a little bit of this when you were doing the bebop and rocksteady. Well, just bebop, but I'm kind of going through here and doing shoelaces as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do E, scale this down, Q, hold down Shift, and we're just going to start basically tying some sort of a bow. Q, hold down Shift to make it the same size, and this will be 1. And if you want to get like do an actual knot, you absolutely can do that. I don't know that I'm going to get that crazy, but just know that option to be crazy is available to you at all times. Q, Shift, move, and then for this one here, and this is just a little bit easier than poly modeling these, although that's another option for you as well. Nothing wrong with that. And this allows you to go through and just like on the fly, you know, before you commit, you can go through here and you can change this geometry as needed. So I'm kind of just following kind of this reference, and I guess these are actually a lot smaller looking at this. just go through here and hit Q, and again, move, and do whatever you need to do. Actually, it looks like this bow, they don't droop that much. Now, depending on what the fabric's made out of and how thick it is, that'll kind of determine a lot of that stuff. But for now, I guess we'll keep that. And then here, and these things I can always add later as well. So back here, you know, so if I wanted to, okay, so by default, if I hit A, it's going to do a Dynamesh, not necessarily what I'm looking for. So we're going to say density of 1, Dynamesh preview, or resolution down, and now we just have this simple stuff. If you want to go even simpler, you can say use classic skinning, and that'll simplify that quite a bit. And that actually might be useful if you're just going to do poly modeling versions of this. If you wanted to control this, we could do both. So we can say, you know what, okay, fine, make it the adaptive skin. Go in here, append that skin Z-sphere. We're going to turn out that Z-sphere so we're not confused. And here is my geometry. Now at this point, I can go through here and I can take out these caps. So I'm going to say, you know what, you are gone, and you are gone. And now if I go through here and I say polygroup, polyloop, that can be one, and that can be another one. So we say, let's get rid of these ones here, and this can essentially be our knot that we're kind of playing with. So at this point you can say delete hidden, and then you can say extrude all polygons. And this is one way you could go about it. It's just kind of creating knots like this. Now you still do have the opportunity to go through here and say topological, and go through here and tie these knots a little tighter. Again, I wasn't really tying those Z-spheres, so didn't do a great job. And if you also want to, you can hit just to kind of go through and move and then invert, and then you can pull these pieces out a little bit. So there's not a whole lot of resolution on these yet, so it's not overly useful, but you can use that to kind of pose. So this could be one way you go through and just make like a cloth knot. Another way you could do it is when you do your Z-sphere, you can actually, there's a script to take your Z-sphere chain. Oh boy, it's probably somewhere on my YouTube channel. It's been a while since I've used it, but it's not installed. Is it? Macros. Yeah, I have to look that up. There's a script that'll actually put a curve down the middle of your Z-sphere chain, and then you can just use that. But even if you don't have that, you can literally take this, or even like what we have here, and you can say, you know what, take these two polygroups here. Let's do this. Let's duplicate this off. Take these two polygroups here, say delete hidden, go in here to stroke, curve functions, frame your mesh in your polygroup border, and then you go in here to brush, curve, tube, or curve snap, strap snap, and then you can just go through here and just add, add geometry like that. So it'll go through and just add your loops. But I think this is simple enough. We don't need to go more fancy than this, I don't think. So we're going to go through here. We're going to do a crease PG, and we're going to turn on dynamic so we can see what's going on here. And you know what? Let's also run a little higher crease tolerance. I don't want it to grab all these, so we can go through here and say we can crease edge loop complete. Hold down Alt. So I want those to say nice and uncreased, although that's kind of nice to have that up there. Yeah, that's fine. So if this is the look we like, we can say crease level of 1, smooth subdiv of 3 maybe, and we can just have that just kind of hanging out there. Same thing for this one. Crease PG, crease smooth subdiv of 1, smooth subdiv of 3, and that can be just kind of where that hangs out. Now if you wanted to go through and sculpt detail, you do need to apply those subdivisions, but in this case, you know what, I guess we could. But before I do that, what I would want to do is even out this geometry. This geometry down here is probably even enough, but this one's definitely not. So we're going to do Shift D. I'm going to go through here and I'm going to say Insert, Multiple Edge Loops, and I'm going to turn off, I'm going to keep Polygroup. So you just literally go through here and just add, just kind of even out my geometry here. And then on this one too, we can see, is there any of that I need to do? You know what might help is if I literally go through here and insert, just to, not necessarily to even it out, but since it's so thin, we're going to gather a lot of geometry in some areas, so I'm just going to And again, we're just making this a little bit nicer. You could zero mesh this, but I don't. I like this geometry enough. I don't want zero mesher having to work too hard. But zero mesher definitely could work in your favor, especially if you give it nice, easy instructions. I'll show you for example. So here and here, and then we could even just, slide this back over. So now let's say this is fine. Now you could also say, you know what, let's duplicate this off so I can show you. Here is just a something nice and simple. So now we can go through here and do a zero mesh, same, adapt the size down to 0, and that'll go ahead and even out your topology. Probably. It might have some issues that you may have to go in and fix, like this, but a lot of this, sorry, wrong hotkey. A lot of this could also be helped by just adding more geometry. So instead of same, we'll say double. And I actually did a worse job. Maybe adapt to target polygon count. And then half. Yeah, those corners are... Okay, here's what we can do. So we can say, okay, we did this. I'm going to go in here to polish by features open circle. And we'll kind of round those out. And then, but I still want corners on this stuff. So we'll use our move ACU in that case. And then zero mesh half. And that'll kind of give you possibly a little nicer detail. But anyway, delete that. So now this, we have D for dynamic, and we can go ahead and say apply. And here we'll say, you know what, let's also do a polish by features open circle. And that'll kind of smooth those out. And then we'll just do a regular old polish. Not polish by feature, just polish, just to kind of smooth that out. So now we have real subdivisions on here. So if we did want to go through and sculpt, let's switch over to our matcap gray. Easy enough, right? And then we can swing these out just a little bit. Now, this is destructive, so you want to make sure that when you're ready to get to this point, you're ready to commit those subdivisions, because going back and doing some stuff might be a little bit hairier. But in this case, I think we're pretty safe. It's a pretty simple ask here. So, go back to Skin Shader 4. Turn on our perspective. And then under our render settings, this is where we were kind of messing around with this. So we'll say render pass. What are we looking for here? Our render properties. So shadow, AO, do no transparency, maybe a little SSS. And then render properties, AO, SSS, shadow. Shadow, the global strength we're going to turn down a little bit, and we're going to turn down up the resolution, the raise, crank the angle up just a bit. And then for the AO, that's fine. We're going to turn that blur way down. And then for the SSS, I think what we ran into is we're going to up this raise and resolution just a tiny bit, and then drop the angle down a little and that blur down. And then, of course, you can move the light around and do whatever you're needing to do. So under here, to get that final look. So now having the head on there does kind of obstruct the face a bit, and that face is going to be kind of a focal point, so that's kind of a bummer. But we can see if we can get some of that back. We can also we can maybe do a render pass where we do a second pass where we kind of fake a little bit of that lighting underneath. But cool. So we'll get caught up, and then we'll go ahead and, oh, it's already 8:10. So we'll start actually. Let me check something real quick. Since unfortunately I don't do this for a living. Okay, I'm good. Cool. Awesome, John. See you later. Reference is some Jordu shell traditional sculpting, and then basically just this bamboo hat Google. Okay, getting caught up. Sculpting characters. Yeah, faces are fun to sculpt. So the video before this on my live stream full episodes should have we basically just sculpted this guy from scratch. So everything here, and honestly, I think let's go to me. This one. Oh, we even got some music. But basically, yeah, start to finish, just kind of going through, and we talked a little bit about sculpting and making things from scratch, and a little bit of anatomy from zygote body, and then going through. I need to turn that sound off. Different techniques and kind of things to think about when you're going through. We did a little bit of drawing as well. Not just you can construct in 2D, and then 3D will help that, and then 2D will help you maybe design a little bit better, or think in the round, or think through some issues, and then go back into 3D. And then you can also take your mesh, and this is where we get into like maybe doing some fiber mesh and stuff. Going back in here and just kind of concepting over your initial sculpt and seeing what changes you want to make, or what kind of character you end up wanting to make. So using that to kind of dictate what you're doing. Of course, you can also just wing it, like what we're doing for ZBrush. Anyway, turn that off. Using Photoshop to texture paint low poly assets. Sure, you can do that. There's also stuff like you can look into. I mean, God, it's just nice because Photoshop. I mean, you can poly paint color material. You can do it in the 3D view. I probably wouldn't, but yeah, you could do that. Best system requirements for 3D modeling and animation. As much as you can afford, I suppose. It depends on how much of the pipeline you're doing. If you're just modeling, is way different than video editing, is way different than rendering, is way different than, I guess, possibly animation. Video editing is probably going to tax the most components at once. Cool. Repeat the shadow final look. I missed it. Yeah, we can talk about that a little bit. I've been working in ZBrush this morning, about 2 hours. Cool. Best practice for beginner sculpting, probably the intro to ZBrush, or the ZBrush for concept and ideation will get you kind of up and running, and then the intro to ZBrush part 1 will get you through just basic sculpting busts and stuff like that. Long hair, curves for export as guides for other programs. Yes. You can sculpt. Let me show you this. So we basically have. Let me just open this in another, or I can just send that to you. Hair process. Share. Yeah. Share. Get shareable link. Copy link. There you go. So that's one of the ways where you can just use. You can use ZBrush to drive curves, and then root to tip, and then you can just drive curves through that. You can also just do fiber mesh and stuff like that. So if we were talking about doing a little bit of fiber mesh, and also doing stylized hair, you can use fiber mesh, and then you can use macro mesh replacement to do some of that stuff. Yeah, we'll have to get to that some other time. But cool. All right, so back to rendering here. Looks like under the rendering, we were talking about shadows. The angle for that shadow is a little bit intense. So I'm going to tighten that up a little bit. In fact, we could close that all the way up, just because I don't need a tremendous amount of fall off here. So let's go ahead and turn that down to 0, blur down. And then we're still capturing all of this, which I think we'll need. So we'll go through here and we'll say, you know what? I just got to have a little bit. I just got to have some. All right, so this will be good. Let's go ahead and look at our maps here. AO depth composite here. So we'll go ahead and dump these into our, hold on just a second, streaming here. And we'll do another, second, here. And don't organize things like I do. Alrighty. So composite, depth, shadow. Are though, you know what? Let's get something a little bit more interesting here. There's not a whole lot going on in that body, so there's no point in, you know, getting all of that information. So I think this will be fine. And then we'll go into composite, save over it. And depth, save over that. Shadow, sure. AO, mask, SSS. I think that'll be good enough. So now, just real quickly, movie, timeline, show, save our movie point, turn that off, and then we'll go in here and turn all this off, and then we'll go ahead and do from Skin Shader 4 back to basic. And then real quick, we can also do like some reflection passes if we're going to do any like really interesting materials on this, and in our case we're not, but something to consider. Okay, so for that light, I'm going to tap it once to go back behind. And we're going to go into our material properties, and we're going to crank up. First, we just want that lighting information, then we just want the specular information. And then we'll tighten that up just a little bit here. And we'll go ahead and say, I think I'll be okay. Now, you don't have to render it with shadows and AO and stuff like that on. In this case, I'm going to. So we're going to go ahead and say, oops. Man, did I really close that? Render composite. And then just for the heck of it, we'll play around a little bit as well with and then we got this. So again, composite. Alrighty, let's load it all up. So same deal as this one. So that was our working. Depth, shadow. You know what we could do? Window, arrange. Here we go. So we got all these here. So here's our depth, and this one's going to go in alpha 1 this time. If you want to be consistent from last time, just throw it in alpha 2. This one might come in more handy. There is a little bit more depth information than we did previously. And the mask into our alpha 02 in this case. Or you know what? I take it back. Depth did go in alpha 1. And then this is going to be our subsurface scattering, which could actually come in handy on the this stuff back here as well. That could be interesting. And then our light 01. All right, screen. Multiply. Now I don't know that we need extra shadow, so I'm going to probably leave that off. And then for these ones, we'll go in here to the body here, and we're going to say U, and U, and U. And then for this base here, let's go ahead and do a curves. Although, you know what? Let's go back to ZBrush. Now that I look at it, I think I'm missing some something I prefer to do, which is under the materials here, we're going to go over here to our wax modifiers, crank that up. It's going to say under renderer, we have to go through and set the render properties to include wax preview. There we go. That helps a little bit. And then that light. This will just generate another composite real quick. Wait. And also the teeth, I think, had a little polypaint on it. Okay, that'll work. No biggie. Although, you know what? I think that AO is getting real muddy. AO, blur down, angle, strength. Let's do this. AO is going to be in that AO pass, and then I'm going to go ahead and turn it off for a composite. There we go. So now, a little better. Okay, so we'll worry about these in a bit. Maybe not. Multiply them. And over here, we'll do like we did before with our hue saturation and colorize. And again, I don't think we'll need anything special for that, but maybe cool that off just a little bit, turn that saturation down just a tad. Okay, and then shadow, I think we're good. And then our curves we want to play around with. Yeah, a little bit better. Here. And then maybe add a little hue saturation. All right. So now, what else we have with shadow? I'm just going to go ahead and kill. Definitely don't need any of that. Now our lighting here, if we wanted to maybe try, just like we did before, hue saturation, colorize, maybe warm that up just a touch, maybe not super saturated. And then maybe this one here. You know, we can just copy this and drop it up. Alt-tap to secure that, and then we'll cool that off a little bit. It's kind of an overall adjustment. Let's back that off a little. So now let's go in here and let's do two new layers, and we'll do our, oh, we do have subsurface scattering. So we're going to do Control Tap to select our subsurface scattering, and then in here we'll say fill with that, and then again do a layer so we just have this. Now if we go through here and we want to paint on this, which is probably what we want to do since I don't need necessarily, no, Photoshop, don't. Let's see. Hold on just a second. There we go. Go through here and we can say, let's go through and select. So here, this subsurface scattering. You know what? And we could do a, let's make this a little easier on ourselves. Back in ZBrush. For just this hat, these hat pieces here. We're going to say flat color. We're going to turn off shadows, SSS, wax preview, BPR. Spell it wrong. Oops. Guess could have made that background black, but we can go ahead and do it in here. Copy that. Paste it into our channels here. And now we have a hat selection. So very quickly we can say, you know what? I want to do a hue and saturation just for the hat. And we'll go ahead and put that over into a green area. And it doesn't have to be this intense. We can drop that opacity down quite a bit. Or you can even go in through here and you can add another opacity layer. And you can just go in through and manually brush default X. Say it's 3 and 3. And select that one. There we go. Sorry, I had gray on there. So you can go through here and you can just dial back the amount of subsurface scattering that you have from that map. But like we did earlier, we can also go through here and just do a color dodge and a overlay brush. And also on these ones here as well, we have it confined to just the head, but I'm also going to go through here and we're going to knock down some of this because we do want it and then let's do this. Control A, Control Shift C, Control Paste, and we'll go in here with our dodge tool. And then our burn tool. And obviously that hat's a little much. You could, since we do have a hat selection, you could go ahead and just throw a texture on there. So if you go in here, well, I guess we have it just sitting there too. So we can just go through here and say, and then we have to go through and you could do a We could do a clown pass for the face as well, but you could also just go through here and just put in like a bamboo texture or something like that, and it might suffice. But for now, I think we're fine for just kind of a thumbnail thing. So now, 1950 by 1920 by 1080. So that's the aspect ratio we need to fill. And then we can just go through here and we can say you go here. You know what? Before we do that, let's go in here to our filter, blur, lens blur, alpha 1, I believe. Focus in on the face, crank that radius. See if that adds anything worthwhile. Might not. That's fine. So here, shift drag this onto here. Brush, alt tap this one, fill that background. And this could just be kind of where I end up putting this. We'll zoom out just a little bit. And now, let's see, text. And we'll call it Livestream. Duplicate it off. And what's today? 0305. Oops. And now this can kind of be in front of the text since you don't know they need to read all of Livestream. Anything else we want to put in here? It looks like I got a little bit of a artifact in there. You know what? Let's, again, for thumbnails, we're really looking for that contrast. Alt select, fill, and we'll call that a day. So now, do I want to put this hat in front of or behind this? Yeah. X, bring that back a little bit. X, and you could do a better selection through there, but we'll just play it easy. So now we have our text here. Is there anything we want to do to make that a little bit more lively? Or if we want to put maybe a frame around this for some reason. And go through here, and then we can literally just say, give me a stroke, edit, stroke, 6 pixels, sure, W, delete, throw this back behind everything. Or you know what, actually we'll put this in front of everything. And then we go through here again, visibility, brush, now, another thing we could do is we could do like a vignette, maybe. Control-Shift-I, Default X, Alt-E-L, Control-D, Filter, blur, Gaussian blur. Set this to maybe multiply, opacity down. Put this behind everything. And I don't think we need any drop shadow or anything special, so let's do this. Paste that. One more. Contrast pass. And again, this does get quite ugly when you're up close, but that's okay. And then we're going to go to our desktop here. We'll say there we go. Got our thumbnail ready to go. Now I just need to upload this to YouTube, and we'll be good to go. Cool. You could also just Control Shift Alt to intersect two alpha masks. Oh, there you go. Yeah, so you can control. So when you're going through here with your alpha masks, you control, or you can make an alpha mask just by control clicking, and then Control Shift Alt to unselect, and then you can go through and just fill for your subsurface scattering, as opposed to filling it and then adding another mask for. Good call. Yes, eye glow actually might actually help quite a bit. Let's do that real quick. Good call. Oh, you know what? Do I have? Let me see if I got a subscription to Production Crate. Let me see if I can't just see if there's any. Mostly I use it for video editing, but sometimes they have. Log me in. Okay, Magic Powers, Super Lightning, anything for. Actually, I could do. Okay, I could do this for my sizzle video as well. I'm trying to find one that maybe go. I mean, I can always rotate it around, so it's not that big a deal. Yeah, this will be fun. Okay, so we'll grab one of these. Real quickly, we'll do these two since I can do it for each individual eye. So I'm going to download this one. I'm going to download this one. And I can just open those up actually. So let's do this. Give me a second. Let me organize just a little bit. Okay, so reference library, VFX, production crate. We'll call this lightning. Downloads. Here. 7-zip, extract to. Thank you. So now I can literally just bring in like one frame of that video. And this can be like that one. And then this one. It can be like. Oh, I guess we have to hit enter. This one can be like this one. So that's easy enough for like a thumbnail. And let's see if we need to. We'll start with, you know, we can just sample this. I'm going to start with like a dark blue. Make this fall off fairly soft. I don't know why. I don't know if it's a Wacom thing or a Photoshop thing. Oh, I know also what we need to do is take this one. Okay. And here, get a little bit lighter. Get a little bit lighter. This is the oldest Raiden. Now that's a thumbnail. Thank you for that suggestion. Oh, you know what else we need to do? I wonder if we need to, you know what? Same thing. We'll do a new layer and we'll just kind of go through here and like put a little rim light. Now if I really wanted to get into it, I would go into ZBrush and like create a rim light specifically for just this, but boy, ain't nobody got time for that. So we'll go through here and we'll just kind of punch up the idea that this is actually affecting his face a little bit. So we'll go through here and then we'll blur this out just a bit and we'll get the lighter values. And then let's throw another layer on here and we'll try a color dodge of some very severely light blue. We'll try to bloom. Something like that. So now save this. Oops. Save this as my thumbnail, and you can go through and you can check out just Control-Alt-Shift-S to kind of save out just a crappy JPEG. Livestream thumbnail, bada bing. And then now, for the sizzle, I'm going to have to stop recording, but I can still be streaming, so save changes to Adobe Photoshop document. Let me cancel that. So, how to do this. Okay, I think we're good enough. So I'm not going to stop streaming, but I am going to stop recording so that I can go into OBS here. And we can say File, Remux Recordings. Grab the latest one we just finished, which is this one. And say, and actually we don't even have to remux this for Vegas Pro. We can just drop a native MKV file in there. I actually have a video on that on my channel. But for our purposes, sometimes it's useful, especially, oh, you know, I can start uploading this. Upload video. So I go ahead and just start. So you do need to remux it. I don't think you can drop an MKV onto YouTube. But, so let me go in here to videos. And that can be uploading while we're working. So we got that going. Now let's load up just another real quick thing. Actually, you know what? Let's do this. So I stopped recording so I can do that. Now I'm going to start recording this and I can edit together. Okay, so in order to do our sizzle video, what I'll do is I'll go in and we've already remuxed it, but like I said before, you can drop a native MKV file into Vegas Pro. Let's make this so you can actually see it. So now, under videos, we can go in here and we can, I'm going to right click because I don't need any audio for this. I'm going to right click as I drag it in and say video only, add across timeline, and then this is where I go through. I'm going to hold down Control and just shrink this up. So as I'm going through and editing, I can go through and just pick and choose what I choose to put in here. Now, what I can also do is I can go in here and I can do insert media, or I'm just going to, you know what, I'm going to navigate. So from our desktop here, we have you know what? Let's do this. I think this will be better. So we went through and we did these as just kind of for our thumbnail here, but then we have this version which doesn't have any lightning, which is great because what I want to do with this one is just do it in video. So I'm going to say you are going to be on my desktop as so now I can go through here and on my desktop we have our video thumbnail. Add insert a video track and we'll go ahead and just take this one here and we'll just mess around with this for now. There you go. So now we just have this thumbnail here. And now the preview is set to auto, so it kind of dumbs it down, but it's not going to render like that. That's just a preview. Okay, that's uploading. So now what we can do is we can say, let's go to import media. And we have this, so we're going to load this as a sequence. And then under alpha channel, we're going to say straight unmatted. And then same thing. So that was Sparks 10. Alpha straight unmatted. So now we can just drag these in here. And so I want to move this around. So let's zoom in here. I'm going to say you go on this eyeball. And you can go through here and you can scale it, move, scale, and rotate and all that good stuff if it's not quite working for you. But I think that's fine. And then you need to go at the same time, so we'll just add another video track. And then you go here. And now you go. Oops. Now this one I do want to rotate. Let's go ahead and give ourselves a little bit more room. Usually I have this taking up my whole screen, so I'm not so cramped, but since we're doing demos, kind of not ideal. And now I'm upside down and I'm having a real hard time. Okay. Here. There we go. So now, oh wait, you know what? We don't want to animate that. Crap. Okay, so by default, it is going to want to set a bunch of animatable keyframes in here, so we're going to go ahead and just delete these. We don't need those. We literally just want to, in fact, let's just go to the beginning here so we're sure. And then I'm going to unsync this so that as I'm playing around with this, I can see, okay, and then this eyeball here, I don't want you animating, so delete that. I'll go ahead and unsync this, so as we're further along in the playlist here, let's go ahead and mute that one. So that's where that is, and now I can move this into place, no problem. Bam. Okay, so don't animate. And I'll unmute this one. Bam, there we go. Ring. Something like that. So, anyway, I'll let you guys go. Hey, Becca. Yeah, I should probably be getting ready for work, seeing as how it's almost 9 o'clock. But yes, master clickbait. That's what I'm going for. Lightning effects. What else can we put in there? Cleavage. Anything that'll get me clicks. I don't know if we can do that on this particular one, but maybe next time. Yes, comic book speed lines. Perfect. Cool. All right. Cool. And this is Vegas Pro. But anyway, thanks everybody. I'll get this video out real quick. And actually, I don't need to upload this. What am I thinking? Because it's just streaming to YouTube anyway. Cool. Thanks everybody. And I'll catch you later.